Hello again, everyone. This is Chris here, and that is Robert Harding. This is the Citizen Sports Weekly. We're recording this on Wednesday, March 20th, 2014. It is the 20th, right? No, it's the 19th.
It's the 19th.
It's the 19th. See, it just shows you I'm so used to Thursdays. Anyways, you might be...
You're excited for
I'm
Florida
excited.
already. That's why I thought it was the
Purple Power. Woo! Great Danes. Yes, they won their first ever NCAA men's basketball tournament Division I game. They have won games at the Division III level, by the way. So, but that's ancient history. Actually dates back to my time at the school when they were Division III. But I'm one of the proponents of telling them to go Division I, and well, I don't think they listened to me, but they went Division I, and it took some time, but they finally have that first Division I tournament W, and I'm very happy for these guys. No jokes, all seriousness. Great win for these guys last night. They got off to a strong start, and then they had to withstand a Mount St. Mary's challenge, and just getting to the tournament, having to go out to Stony Brook and beating the Seawolves there on their home court to win the America East Conference Championship. So I'm a proud alum. And I don't get many opportunities like this to crow about my school. It's not Syracuse. It's not one of the big guys. It's one of the little guys, and I'm pretty proud of them. And they played great. And I mean, look, I'm not a fool though. They're not going to beat Florida, but I would like to think they could be a little competitive and maybe lose by less than 20. And I think that'd be a nice moral victory. But they got the W, and you can't take that away from them. Now, the real reason why we're here, besides me touting my school, is the NCAA tournament's coming up. It started last night technically, but for the real games where we've got a bunch of games going on at the same time and buzzer beaters and everything, that starts tomorrow afternoon. And I think, for my money, it is the best weekend in sports. I don't think anything gets any better. Maybe the first weekend of the NFL playoffs, maybe the first week of the baseball playoffs, possibly. Maybe even opening day. There's something about that newness of opening day. But for me, the opening weekend of the NCAA men's basketball tournament is the best weekend in sports. Do you agree, Robert?
I'm done with two of my favorite days of the year. Really, to narrow it down to one, my favorite day of the year for sports anyway is Thursday. The Thursday when the tournament starts. I mean, the excitement. Who's going to upset who?
Right.
How's your team going to do? It's just a fun time.
And there's just games on from noon to midnight, and you have to love it. It's great. So, well, we did our brackets, and I guess we're going to read some of the picks. I guess we're going to, I don't go into every game, but I think we'll do our Elite Eight picks,
sure,
and then go to the Final Four of the national championship. So,
well, first,
yes,
did you pick any big upsets?
What's
the biggest upset?
I always feel that a 12 beats a 5. That's been said for many years. I'm not going to try to take credit for that. That's been said for many years. And NC State played a good game last night, and I think they got a little momentum. I mean, here's a team that beat Syracuse, should have beat them at the Dome. I think they're a solid team, and I like them to upset St. Louis. That's really, I guess, my biggest upset of the first round, the second round, as the NCAA calls it. So I like NC State, a little bit of momentum. And St. Louis has been slumping a little bit lately. I like the Wolfpack to pull off the upset there, the 12 versus 5.
Nice. I actually had that one too. I went a little further. I picked 2 13 seeds to win.
Whoa!
I have Tulsa over UCLA. UCLA's a good team, but I think that in that spot, that 4-13, you end up with some of these mid-majors that are actually pretty good. And sometimes those teams in the 4 slot can take them lightly, and we saw last year 13 beat a 4,
yep,
14 beat a 3. So it's not impossible, but Tulsa seems to be a team that could pull that off. On the other side, I have New Mexico State beating San Diego State. So I have 2 13 seeds winning, which is probably I didn't pick any 14, 15, right, or 16 seeds to win, but those 2 games stuck out to me as kind of difficult to pick, and I went with the underdog in both.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to go for some more upsets, but I just couldn't pull the trigger on them. I was analyzing stats. What I like to do is I like to compare team strengths and weaknesses. And it's kind of tough to do that sometimes just because obviously the teams play against different levels of competition. So a team might have great stats, but they may be stats against really bad teams. Well, meanwhile, another team that plays in a major conference is playing really good teams all the time. And, they don't get the stats that they were playing in a lesser conference. So it's a little bit difficult sometimes. But So I guess we'll start off with the South region because that's the one on the left-hand side. And for the Elite Eight, I've got Florida versus Kansas. I've got Syracuse losing in the second round to Ohio State. I just think that those shooting woes, I mean, they just can't shake them. And, I think they'll get by Western Michigan. But I just think Ohio State's going to beat Syracuse. I just don't have a good feeling about this team. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. I mean, I know they got on a run last year, but I mean, this is different. I mean, they're a completely different team. I mean, you had Sutherland last year, you had Trish, you had some good senior leadership there, and Fair, don't get me wrong, he's a decent leader, but he was horrible against North Carolina State, and if he turns it around, then maybe then, because Ennis did play a good game, okay. But I don't count, Trevor Cooney's not going to do anything for you. I feel bad because I'm sure he's trying hard, but he just can't do it. He just can't make a three or consistently make threes. So that means if Fair struggles, Syracuse is cooked. I just can't see Ennis leading them by himself, as good a point guard as he is, but as a scorer. So I have Syracuse losing to Ohio State in the third round. And then I have Kansas and Florida in the Elite Eight. And I like Florida to win and advance to the Final Four.
Oh, we have agreement there. I actually have Syracuse making it to the Sweet 16, but I think that's where the road ends. I mean, Kansas is a pretty good squad. That I think actually could be a Final Four team, but they have to play Florida. Florida has been great all year since they got off to a little bit of a rough start, lost a couple games, but they've pretty much won out since then. Won the SEC tournament over Kentucky. So, I think they're in this tournament. They're the team to beat. They've been on a roll since then. They've come together as a team. I think it'll be tough for anybody to beat them, including Kansas.
Okay, going to the East bracket. For my Elite Eight, I have Michigan State. I have them knocking off Virginia in the previous round. And Iowa State. I like Iowa State. They're a very powerful offensive team. They do play in one of the better conferences, the Big 12, and I think they're going to knock off Villanova. And I have Michigan State and Iowa State. And I think this is where Tom Izzo earns his money. He's a veteran coach. He knows what it takes to get to the Final Four. Michigan State's, they had some injuries earlier in the year. They're healthy now. And it's a trendy pick. I think if you've watched any television show or listened to any podcast or anything, sports talk radio, Michigan State is the trendy pick. And I like Michigan State. So I've picked Michigan State to win the East bracket.
We agree there. I can't.
If you're looking for conflict here, folks, this is not the side of the bracket to get in.
Yeah, it's this. The left side of the bracket this year, I think, is pretty easy to pick. I mean, it does get a little complicated in the East. I do think Virginia is a good team. Michigan State will be a tough draw as a 4 seed for them. But I think Virginia, Michigan State, either one of those teams could make it out of this region. I had Michigan State and Iowa State in the Elite Eight too. Iowa State's a great team coming out of the Big 12. I watched a couple of their games this year. Just great at both ends of the floor. And that really counts for something in the tournament. It was tough for me though because UConn is. They're a bit of a sleeper here, I think. I think they're a deceiving 7 seed. I think they're better than advertised, and they could, I have them upsetting Villanova. They could very well beat Iowa State, too. UConn is, they always have a history in the tournament of playing better than advertised. So, but, when it gets down to it, Michigan State and Iowa State and the Spartans moving on.
Okay. In the West, I went a little, I don't say I got crazy here, but there's always one team that crashes the Final Four party that really not many people expect. It's a mid-major school or a school that really nobody knows a lot about. So in the Elite Eight, I have Arizona. They're the number 1 seed, Pac-12, and I have them playing Creighton. And yes, Creighton is a Big East school now, but I mean, it's going to be a while before any of us actually think of Creighton and Big East instantaneously. They're new to the conference, and it's going to take time for basketball fans to get used to saying Creighton is a Big East school. Creighton is a number 3 seed. I think they got one of the best players in the country, Mr. McDermott there.
The best.
Yep. And, I see him getting on a little bit of a run. And, call me crazy, but I have them beating Arizona. I have them going to the Final Four. That's like my dark horse to get to the Final Four is Creighton.
Not bad.
You know, they did win the Big East, which is still a halfway decent conference, but I like Creighton, and I think they're going to crash the party and make the Final Four.
I think one great thing for Arizona, on their half of the West bracket, is that there's not really any teams, save for Oklahoma State. I think they could be a bit of an upset threat there, but I see Arizona really making it to the Elite Eight and advancing to the Final Four. You mentioned Creighton as kind of a sleeper to make it into the Elite Eight, and you have them going to the Final Four. I have Oregon going to the Elite Eight.
Now, this is funny. I have Oregon losing in the first day to BYU. That's one of the minor upsets I picked. I think Oregon has been streaky. They did not play well in the Pac-12 tournament. Maybe they turn it around here, but I really wasn't high on Oregon doing my research about them. So I actually picked BYU to pull, I guess you'd call it a minor upset. I guess it's a 10 over a 7. So I've got them losing in the opening round there, the first full day of the tournament, and you have them going all the way to the Elite Eight. So I guess that's our big difference there.
Yeah, I just, looking at who they have, I mean, BYU, that game's going to be close.
Yep.
I think they'll pull it out, though. And then, Wisconsin likely, if Wisconsin beats American, which is, more than likely. But I just see that as a 7 over a 2 possibility. Oregon advances. I have Baylor beating Creighton in the third round. So I have Baylor and Oregon playing in the Sweet 16 with Oregon advancing.
I actually have Nebraska beating Baylor in the first round. I guess you can call that an upset. I mean, it's the
11 over 6.
It's the Warren Buffett game, Nebraska versus Creighton there, the battle of the Cornhusker State there. Moving to the Midwest, which I guess a lot of people call the group of death, taking a page out of the World Cup soccer tournament there. I've got for my Elite Eight Louisville and Michigan. Wichita State had a great run, but I just think Louisville's going to take them down. They're the defending champs. Rick Pitino, I just think they're going to be a tough out. Michigan, what a great team they are. The best team in the Big Ten by far. And it was, I got to admit, it was difficult picking between Louisville and Michigan. Both teams are just such good basketball teams, well coached. I went with Louisville to get to the Final Four, and that's who I've got going. So Florida, Michigan State, Creighton, and Louisville are my Final Four.
Louisville rounds out my Final Four as well. I have Louisville and Michigan in the Elite Eight. I don't have Wichita State going to the Sweet 16. I have Kentucky beating them in the
second round. The second round of the third round.
The round of
come on NCAA.
The round of 32.
You got to fix this. We got a lot of you guys may not remember this, but back through the late 70s up into the early 80s when the tournament used to be 48 teams and there were buys. Okay. I think the NCAA should expand the tournament and then give maybe the first 16 teams buys. And that way, you still have a true, opening weekend where everybody's playing. There's not those play-in games or first four, whatever you want to call it. And give these teams a real good reason to try to get a high seed and get a first round bye. And you could do that. You could maybe, I don't know whether you could go up to 70, not 78, I'm trying to think, between 64 and 96 would be 80, I believe. Yeah, 80. Maybe do 80 teams. I mean, that way no one's going to complain about getting the shaft on not getting picked or their bubble bursting.
That's what they said about.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, now I know, but still, I mean, I think that's a good number. But so, anyways, Louisville, Creighton, Florida, Michigan State.
I've got Florida, Michigan State, Arizona, and Louisville.
Yeah, so we just differ on one team.
Yeah, but I think we have a little bit of a different outcome in the championship game and the eventual champion, at least in terms of our predictions here.
Yes, I have Michigan State beating Florida, and I have Louisville over Creighton. And for the national champion, they're going to repeat, folks, the Louisville Cardinals, Rick Pitino, another national championship. And I like Louisville. A good friend of mine, Adam Himmelsbach, he used to be a sports writer here in Auburn. He's a columnist now for the Louisville Courier-Journal. He'll be there all the way. Looking forward to reading his columns as Louisville makes their march. I'm going to give him a little plug there. So I like Louisville. I just think that, that they're a proven team. They know what it takes to get there and win. And they've obviously got the talent. And I just think that they're the best team in the country.
I have Florida and Louisville going to the title game with Florida winning.
All right.
It's just my faith in Billy Donovan, and people. I've heard analysts say, well, the SEC isn't that great of a basketball conference, but Florida always puts together good basketball teams. Going back into you look 5-6 years ago when they repeated, when they won back-to-back titles. This is a team that could do that. They haven't really lost in a few months, and made their way through the SEC tournament. Beat a really an underachieving Kentucky team, better than advertised. And I'm putting my stock in Florida this year.
All right. Of course, they got to beat the Great Danes first. Yeah, they're going to beat the Great Danes. I know. You got to just imagine.
I do hope they make it interesting, though. It's always fun to watch these one seeds play 16 seeds, because everyone realizes that the 16 seed's an underdog.
Right.
But when teams make it competitive, like Albany did 7-8 years ago,
right.
It makes it worth watching. These don't turn off the TV if a one is playing a 16, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, the only way I see Albany keeping competitive in this game is if they hit lights out from the three. They got a couple guys who can shoot the three. They have a little bit of an inside presence. The point guard, actually, Evans, DJ Evans is his name. He had a great game last night. He was the main reason why they won. And I mean, who knows? But he's only 5'9", and it's going to be tough to go inside against Florida's height and everything. So, but a guy can dream. And what if it was to happen? Oh.
Can you imagine?
I would burn a car, or turn over a car, or burn a couch, or I might have to get drunk or something, man. I'm telling you, it'd be awesome, but it's not gonna. Come on. I had a better chance of winning
the best
Mega Millions last night.
The best moment in the Citizen Sports
Weekly.
But
the thing is, I'm not working tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow, so I'll be watching the game at home.
These will be wasted, folks.
My wife will be yelling at me to lower my voice, because she'll probably be yelling at the TV, because Syracuse is playing about the same time. There's about an hour 15 time difference between the starting times.
So we should stay away from Owasco Lake.
Yeah, don't go near my house, man. It's not going to be pretty. So, well, anyways, we're going to wrap it up. We hope you enjoyed the video. We appreciate you watching. And I guess we'll be doing NCAAs again next week, folks. So until then, we'll see you next weekend. Go Danes!